Hi Simate, welcome back to my channel. It's Needles by Tiara here. And on today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to make this beautiful underbust corset that is currently displayed on your screen right now. So for all your required measurements, I'm going to be leaving all the details you're going to be needing for the drafting of this tutorial on the description box down below. So without no further ado, let's dive right into it. So now I've gone ahead to lay my pattern paper. Please ensure that your pattern paper is on fold. So mine is on fold. And the next thing we'll proceed on to doing is to determine the parts that we're going to be using as our shoulder point or our starting line. So on this point, I'm going to be marking out my straight line at that point. Having done that, placing my tape from the starting line, which is equally my client's shoulder point line, I'll be imputing the distance between my client's shoulder to bust point, which is this. Next is our client's shoulder to under bust point, which is this. Next is our client's shoulder to front waist point, emphasis on the front waist point. And lastly, for our full blouse length point, you're going to be adding an extra 5" to whatever you have imputed on your waist point. So on your waist point line, place your tape on that point and come down by 5 inches, and that would automatically become your corset full blouse length point. Now going with your straight ruler, connect all those points into each other to form a straight line. So having done that, now go ahead to label my pattern. So this is my shoulder point line, my client's bust point line, my under bust, my front waist point, and lastly my corset full blouse length point. Now placing my tape from my shoulder point line, I'll be coming down at that point with the distance between my client's shoulder to chest point, which is this. Now going with your straight ruler, connect that point into a straight line. Go ahead to label this part to be your chest point line, which is otherwise known as your armhole point. So for our circumference measurement on your shoulder point, divide your shoulder circumference by 2 and chalk it down at that point. Whatever you have imputed on your shoulder point, please go ahead to bring that same value down to your chest point. Going with your straight ruler, connecting those 2 points into each other to form a straight line. Now for our neckline, basically we do not need a neckline for this particular drafting tutorial. However, for the sake of those who would be imputing a neckline, go ahead to impute 3 inches as your neck width and 3 inches as your neck depth. Now on your shoulder point, go ahead to come down at that point by 1 inch, which will serve as your shoulder slope line. With that being done, go in with your curve ruler, connecting from the 3 inches neck width into your 3 inches neck depth to form your neck curve. Reintroduce your straight ruler, connecting from that point all the way down to form your shoulder slope. Now place your tape from your shoulder slope point all the way down to your chest point and fold your tape into 2. Having done that, chalk down the midpoint of that line, which is this. Still on the midpoint, come in at that point by 0.5 inch. And lastly, on your chest point, divide your bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down at that point. Going with your armhole curve, connect all those points into each other to form your armhole curve this way. Now on my bust point, you're going to be dividing your client's bust span, which is your nipple to nipple, by 2. Whatever value that you have, go ahead to impute it on your bust point line. Whatever measurement you have imputed at that point, go ahead to bring it down to your corset full blouse length, which is this. Reintroduce your straight ruler, connect from your bust point all the way into your full corset blouse length this way. Having done that, before we proceed on, we'll go ahead to label our pattern. So this is my center front and my side front. The folded part of my pattern paper is my center front and this other part is my side front. Now on our shoulder slope, we're going to be placing our tape from that point all the way in, and we'll go ahead to fold our tape into 2 to find the midpoint of that line. Now going with your straight ruler, connecting from the midpoint all the way into your bust point. So please pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So at this point, I need you to pay keen attention. For your underbust tightening, on your center front, go ahead to impute 1 inch. And at your side front, go ahead to impute 1.5 inches, which is this. So for your center front, 1 inch, your side front, 1.5 inches at your underbust or on your underbust point. Now go ahead to bring that measurement all the way down here on both sides. Going with your straight ruler, connecting from your underbust point, tightening on your center front into your full corset blouse length. So you're going to be doing this both for your center front and your side front. Now on your bust point line, come down at that point by 1 inch, which is this. Going with your curve ruler, connecting from your center front underbust dart into your 1 inch that you came down with on your bust point. I do hope you understand. So you're going to be replicating this process on both your center front and your side front. Please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So we've done that for our center front curve. So for our side front curve, we've gone ahead to replicate that same process. Now go ahead to place your tape from your shoulder point line and you're going to be determining your off shoulder point or your over bust point line at this point. So now, like I said, you could go in between the value of 5 to 8 inches. It totally depends on your client's preference. Or if you wish, you can equally use your chest point as your off shoulder point. So I'm going to be placing my tape from that point and I'll come down at that point by 7 inches for my over bust or my off shoulder point. So I'll go ahead to roll that point into a straight line this way. So go ahead to label your pattern. Like I said, this is either your over bust point or you could call it your off shoulder point. So now to impute my over bust dart, I'm going to be going in at that point both for my center front and my side front by 1 inch. So 1 inch for my center front and 1 inch for my side front. So I'm going to be imputing 1 inch on both sides. I do hope you understand for my over bust point dart. So now I'm going to be reintroducing my curve ruler. I'll be connecting from the 1 inch on my center front into my bust point this way. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So this is our overbust curve for our center front. And now for our side front, we'll go ahead to replicate that same process. Having done that, for our sweetheart cup depth, on your bust point, you're going to be coming up at that point by either 0.75 to 2.5 inches. It totally depends on your client's preference. So for mine on my bust point, I would come up at that point by 2 inches, which will serve as the depth of my sweetheart cup neckline. So I've gone ahead to chalk down 2 inches at that point. Now go ahead to reintroduce my curve ruler, connecting from my 1 inch over bust dart on that point all the way into the 2 inches. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. Having done that, remember vividly on our bust point, we divided our nipple to nipple by 2 and we chalked down that value. So your bust is fuller on the side. So for that reason, you're going to be adding an extra 1 inch to that existing measurement, which is this. So I've gone ahead to chalk my value down on my bust point this way. So on my chest point, I'm going to be coming up at that point by 0.5 inches and I'm going to be taking it all the way down. Going with your straight ruler, connect those points into each other this way. So please go ahead to label your pattern. So this is my new chest point line, which is this. So please take notes. Our former chest point line is no longer valid. Our new chest point line is now our valid chest point line. I do hope you understand. Whatever you have on your chest point line, your former chest point line, bring it up to your new chest point line. Now going with your straight ruler, connect from that point all the way up from your bust point to your former chest point line. And now for our side cup curve, you're going to be reintroducing your curve ruler, blending it from your bust point into your under bust point on your side front. Please pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point. And do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So I'll go ahead to extend from my former chest point line all the way into my new chest point line this way. Now for my side front cup cuff, over bust cuff to be precise, I'm going to be reblending from that point into my new chest point line. So connect from your over bust point cuff into your new chest point line this way. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed. And like I said, do go ahead to replicate same. So on my underbust point, I'm going to be coming up at that point by 1 inch. So you could do in between 0.75 to 1 inch. It totally depends on your preference. So for mine, I chalked down 1 inch at that point. So now at this point, with the introduction of my curve ruler, I'll go ahead to blend from my center front underbust dart into that 1 inch that I came up with at that point. So please pay attention the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point. Ensure that it touches both ends and go ahead to blend from that point all the way up here to draw out your center front curve. So now remember vividly on our chest point, we divided our client's chest circumference, our client's bust circumference rather by 4 and we chopped it down. So at this point, we'll go ahead to replace the darts that we have at this point. So on the side, we'll go ahead to replace that dart on that point. Now on your bust point, go ahead to divide your client's bust circumference by 4, chalk it down and replace that dart at that point as well. Now on your underbust point, please divide your client's underbust circumference by 4, chalk it down at that point, which is this, and go ahead to replace the dart that you have in between on this point. So go ahead to replace your dart on the side of your underbust this way. On your waist point, go ahead to divide your client's waist circumference by 4, chalk it down. Go ahead to replace the darts that you have in between on this side. And lastly, for your front corset blouse length, go ahead to divide your client's hip circumference by 4, chalk it down at that point. Go ahead to replace the darts that you have in between on the sides as well. With the introduction of your straight ruler, connect from your new chest point into your front waist point this way. And now with the reintroduction of your slightly curved ruler, you're going to be reblending from your front waist point into your corset full blouse length point this way. So please pay attention to the way my slightly curved ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. Go ahead to smoothen out this point. So on your full corset blouse length, place your tape on that point and come up by 1 inch. So this is basically to serve as your stylish line on that point. You do not want it entirely straight. So go ahead to reintroduce your slightly curved ruler and blend from that point all the way in. Now on your bust point, you're going to be coming down at that point by your side dart. So what is your side dart? Your side dart is the difference between your client's shoulder to front waist point and your client's shoulder to back waist point. So go ahead to subtract that value. Whatever is left is your side dart. So from my bust point, I came down at that point by 2 inches, being my side dart. And with the reintroduction of my straight ruler, I'll be connecting from my side dart into my bust point line this way. Having done that, I'll go in with my marker. Every part that we have our stroke imputed is the part that we're going to be eliminating. So our underbust dart, our overbust dart, and lastly our side dart. So on the stylish hemline, we're going to be taking out this point as well. With that being done, let's go ahead to eliminate our side dart. So to do that, we're going to be taking off the excess that we have imputed at this point. Now we'll go ahead to slash open from the midpoint of our dart line and we'll slash open from the side of our side dart. I do hope you understand, so please just pay attention. Slash open from the midpoint of your dart all the way into your bust point this way. And for your side dart, slash open from your side dart leg into your bust point. So please ensure that you do not cut it entirely into your bust point, but make it as close as possible to your bust point. With that being done, now to eliminate our side dart, you're going to be taking from the lower part, which is this, and you'd go ahead to overlap it on your bust point line. So take from your lower side, overlap it on your bust point line. With this being done, you've successfully eliminated your side darts. So at this point, you could either go in with your masking tape or your water gum. So I'm going to be working with the water gum. I'll go ahead to spread it out on that point, just like we did initially. Like I said, to drag it from the lower point and overlap it on your bust point. I'll go ahead to do same for the other part of my pattern paper, which is this. Having done that, the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to augment for the shortage that we have on both our side front cup and our side front bodies. I do hope you understand. So to augment for that shortage, you're going to be reblending from your bust point into your under bust point on your side front cup. I do hope you understand. So just blend from that point all the way in this way. So we've successfully augmented for the shortage on our cup, our side cup to be precise. So for this other part, we're going to be reblending from our new chest point into our front waist point line this way. Having done that, now we'll go ahead to eliminate all the excesses on the sides. So go ahead to cut out your excesses at this point. Just go ahead to eliminate it all the way in this way. Take this other part off as well. Go ahead to take off your shoulder point, which is this. Eliminate your neckline for your yoke, which is this. Take off your shoulder slope, which is this. And now your armhole curve. So you're going to be following out your armhole curve. So before we do that, so remember that our armhole curve is no longer valid. Our overbust curve for our side front is the valid curve. So we're going to be taking from that point into this point and all the way into our new chest point line. So please remember that while you're cutting through. So you're going to be taking it from that point into your new chest point line this way. So with that being said, so to ensure that both leg of our overbust start aligns perfectly, we'll go ahead to take the measurement of the side front on. And now for our center front, we'll go ahead to take out that same measurement. So you could see at this point, we have a bit of shortage. So we're going to replace that shortage on this point. Now go ahead to reblend with your curve ruler, extend that line all the way up to augment for your shortage this way. With the introduction of your slightly curved ruler, you'd go ahead to withdraw your sweetheart neck curve that you had imputed on that point. So with this being done, we've successfully augmented for the shortage, and as such, both your overbust point curve is going to align perfectly once you join the both sides together. So you won't have any shortage or any excesses at that point. Now go ahead to reintroduce your curve ruler. Go ahead to connect both that into each other and go ahead to take off this part. So this is basically for those who would be attaching a yoke to theirs. This is definitely going to be what you're going to be doing at that point. So with that being done, let's go ahead to eliminate all our darts. So our underbust dart, we're going to be taking it off all the way up here this way. So this is it for our center front. Now for our side front, we'll go ahead to replicate that same process. So take it all the way up to this point. Now to take out our side front cup curve, we're going to be slashing through this point, following the cup curve lines this way. And now we'll go ahead to separate both our center front from our side front so that we'll be able to eliminate the overbust dart. So go ahead to take it off on both your side front and your center front rather this way. So we've successfully taken off our side front cup curve. Now for our center front, we're going to be slashing from the curve lines that we have at that point. So take from that 1 inch into your underbust point, following the curve that you drew at that point. So with this being done, we've successfully drafted for ourselves our perfect underbust corset. So you can see how perfect this point sits beautifully. The curve, your overbust curve, your underbust curve, and you could see how the sweetheart necklines sit perfectly on both sides. You could see your side front curve, and of course you could see how your side pattern is looking beautiful and well aligned. So this is what it will look like with our yoke. So just like I said, we're going to be having no need for the yoke, hence the reason why we're going to be keeping that aside. Now moving on to your back pattern, we're going to be doing a bit of a subtraction. So now to do that, go ahead to chalk down your client shoulder to front waist point, your client shoulder to front corset blouse length, and go ahead to impute the value of your dart that you took. So with these values having written down, now we'd go ahead to take out our side dart from both values. So you're going to be subtracting 2 inches from your client shoulder to front waist point, which is 18 minus 2 would give me 16 inches. So it automatically means that my back waist point would be 16 inches and not 18 inches. Now for my client shoulder to full blouse length for my front pattern, I had 23 inches point 5. Now we'd go ahead to subtract our side dart, which is 2 inches, and that would automatically leave me with 21.5 inches. So having marked out my starting line, I would go ahead to place my tape from my shoulder point line, which is my starting line. I would mark my client shoulder to bust point, which is this. My client shoulder to back waist point, which is 16 inches and not 18 inches, which we got it by the calculation and the subtraction we did at that point. And lastly, our client shoulder to full blouse length point. So for our back pattern, it is 21.5 inches as compared to the 23.5 inches that we had imputed for the front pattern. With that being done, we'll go ahead to label our pattern. So this is my shoulder point, my bust point, my back waist point, and lastly, my back full blouse length point. Now place your tape from your shoulder point, chalk down your client shoulder to chest point, just like you did for your front pattern. Go ahead to label that part. And now on your shoulder point, go ahead to divide your client shoulder circumference by 2, chalk it down at that point. Whatever measurement you have imputed at that point, bring it down to your chest point this way. Now going with your straight ruler, connect that point into each other to form our straight line and extend from this point all the way in. Now for your back neckline, impute 3 inches as your width, but for your neck depth, you're going to be imputing either 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So for mine, I would go down at that point by 1 inch. On my shoulder point line, I would come down at that point by 1 inch, which will serve as my shoulder slope line. I'm going with your curve ruler, connecting from your 3 inches width into your 3 inches neck depth this way. Going with your straight ruler, connecting from that point all the way down to form your shoulder slope. Now place your tape from your shoulder slope all the way down to your chest point, fold your tape into 2 and find the midpoint of that line. Still on the midpoint line, come in at that point by 0.5 inch, which is this. Lastly, on your chest point line, divide your client's bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down at that point. Now going with your armhole curve, go ahead to connect all those points into each other to form your armhole curve this way. Now on your bust point line, so to impute our dart, you're going to be dividing your nipple to nipple by 2 and chalk it down on your bust point line. Take that measurement all the way down to your back blouse length point this way. Going with your straight ruler, connect that point into each other this way. Now go ahead to label your pattern, your center front and your side front. Now on your back waist point line, come in by 0.5 inch on both your center front and at your side front. Now placing your tape from your back waist point, go down at that point by either 5 inches or 5.5 inches. So at this point, my back blouse length accommodates the 5.5 inches. I'll go in with my straight ruler, connecting from both the center front and the side front imputed 0.5 inches on my back waist point up to my bust point. So I've done that for the center front. I'll go ahead to replicate that same process on our side front. Now, just like we said before, take from that point on your center front down to the 5 inches that you came down with, which is your dart leg length. I do hope you understand. With that being said, on your chest point, just like you did for your front pattern, go up at that point by 0.5 inch, connect this point into each other to form a straight line. And whatever you have imputed on your former chest point, take it up to your new chest point and go ahead to label this part to be your new chest point line. Placing your tape from the shoulder point, go ahead to determine your off-shoulder value for your back point. So for your back pattern, it is usually longer at the back pattern as compared to the front pattern. So with that being said, I'm going to be using my new chest point line as my off-shoulder point for my back pattern. I do hope you understand. So just roll that point into a straight line this way and go ahead to label it to be your off-shoulder point, or you could call it your yoke depth for your back pattern. Now go ahead to connect that point all the way up this way. Having done that, like I said, go ahead to divide your bust circumference by 4, chalk it down on that point, chalk it down on your former chest point as well, and on your bust point, go ahead to divide your client's bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down. On your waist point, go ahead to divide your client's waist circumference by 4, chalk it down. Please ensure to replace the dart that you have in between, which is 1 inch on the side. On your corset back blouse length, divide your client's hip circumference by 4 and chalk it down as well. Going with your straight ruler, connect from your new chest point line to your back waist point, and with the head of your slightly curved ruler, connect from your back corset length point into your back waist point. Having done that, we're going to be coming up at this point by 1 inch, just like we did for the front pattern. Go out further by 0.5 inch at that point. Now reconnect from your back waist point into that 0.5 inch that you came out with rather on that point. Reintroduce your curve ruler, your slightly curved ruler to be precise, and blend it all the way in this way. Having done that, now for our corset back opening, we're going to be imputing either 1 inch, 1.5 inches to 2 inches. It totally depends on your preference. So for mine, I'm going to be imputing 1.5 inches on my new chest point line, take note. And now on my back blouse length point, which is my corset length, I would go ahead to impute that value. Roll it into a straight line. Now go ahead to make a dot on this part. So this is the part that you're going to be attaching your eyelets. Now for those that are going to be attaching a yoke, come down at that point by 0.5 inch. And now with the head of your curve ruler, go ahead to connect from that 0.5 inch all the way into your dart line this way. Having done that, on that point, which is my new chest point on that line, come up by 0.5 inch. So this is to eliminate every gaping and take from that point all the way into your new chest point. Now go ahead to make strokes. So all the parts that we're going to be making strokes are the points that we're going to be eliminating. I do hope you understand. So we're going to be taking all these points off. With that being said, bring back your side front of your front pattern and go ahead to align it to each other. So you can see that both points matches completely, your new chest point and your corset blouse length for both your front and your back pattern. This is exactly what you definitely get as your end result, having followed through the process, and of course you've gotten it right. So I've gone ahead to eliminate all my sides and I've gone ahead to detach my yoke from my lower bodice. I would go ahead to take off this part for my keyhole neckline for the back pattern. This is basically for those who are going to be using that. Go ahead to take off your corset back opening this way. And now on the midpoint, which is your dart line, go ahead to slash open that point into 2 this way. Now go ahead to eliminate the center front that you have on this point. So just go ahead to take it off this way. So the dart on the side front, go ahead to eliminate it as well, following the curves that we had imputed on that point. So with this being done, you've perfectly drafted for yourself your corset, your underbust corset back pattern. So moving on, like I said, we're not going to be working with the yoke, so we're going to take it off. So please go ahead to write this down. Your client shoulder to off shoulder point for your front pattern. By your off shoulder, I mean your overbust point. So I took out 7 inches for mine. And now your client shoulder to back off shoulder point, which is still your overbust point or your yoke depth. So mine, I took off 7.25, which is this. So now the next thing we'll proceed on to doing is to add the two values. So 7 inches plus 7.25 would automatically give me the value of 14.25. So 14.25 is going to be the length of my strap, and 0.75 is going to be the width of my strap. I do hope you understand. So you're going to be cutting out 6 pieces of this strap, 6 pieces for one side of it and 6 pieces for the another. So it is 6 pieces on each side. So basically at this point, I was trying to illustrate how you're going to be joining it to your front pattern and your back pattern. So this is it for this part. Voila, our pattern is ready. Look at how beautiful our underbust corset pattern came out looking on both our center front, our side front, the underbust curve. You could see how beautiful this part flows evenly. The sweetheart neckline imputed on our center front curve, the side front, you could see how this sits beautifully on all the parts, and this part ensure it is on fold. And you could see how our strap is sitting beautifully on both sides. So like I said, your strap is going to be 6 pieces on both sides. So on that strap, you're going to either be beading on it, but in case you do not want to add a strap to yours, please feel free to use a beading fringe on that point. 6 inches, 6 pieces rather, for both sides. And now at this point, you're going to be adding some sewing allowances. So 0.5 inch on all the sides except for the seam allowance. So the seam allowance on the side is going to be 2 inches on both your front pattern and your back pattern. So whatever you have as your seam allowance for your front pattern, you're going to be using that same seam allowance for the back pattern as well. So for all the parts, you're going to be using 0.5 inch all the way around. So if you have watched this video to this point, I mean, what are you waiting for? Kindly click on the subscription button, like, share, and follow for more of this related content. Thank you and see you on my next video. Bye.